Summer Academy is the best summer camp ever.
There's something about the seminar-style classes and doing discussions constantly that just makes you grow an incredible amount.
Coming out of my sophomore year, I struggled to really get inspired about what I was doing in school. And a main reason was I was not surrounded by kids who had any interest in what we were working with. So coming to a place like this was a kind of a sure way of being surrounded by kids who were curious, interested, and it's proved correct.
There's several things that define and distinguish St. John's. Probably what we're most known for is dealing with primary texts, the so-called great books. So the Summer Academy is a kind of microcosm of the St. John's program. In a week, we bring together a group of young people, a group of high school students, to do what we do in our undergraduate and graduate programs, to study great works across disciplines, to make connections between them, and to do it in a conversational, student-driven classroom.
I must have read about 20 to 30 admissions files for Summer Academy students. And with every single one of these files, I thought to myself, this is an amazing kid. And then I had the thought, wow, imagine the moment when they all meet each other.
Hi, everybody. Jesse.
Traditional professor is an authority. So he goes into the classroom to impart what he knows. At St. John's, we take a different approach by taking the text as the authority.
St. John's is a college where you are going to read original texts from Greeks up to about the 1950s. And it's basically the history of human thought that you're covering.
We read the books together and we talk about the books together. We don't use the secondary sources or the textbooks. Nor do we lecture. As a faculty member here, I'm called a tutor, not a professor. And I think of my work as coming into the class, leading it enough to ask an opening question and to keep things moving as it goes. But I come in hoping that I'm going to learn from my students, just like they're hoping they're going to learn from me and from each other. We're very egalitarian.
I would have never thought I would be able to read those books before I came here. But during the seminars, when we talk about them, that's where most of the learning happens, because it's not sitting in a classroom and taking in the facts that they give you. It's learning through discussion and learning how to think.
I've had classes that are maybe a little more discussion-based, but nothing like seminar. It's structured around the table, and it's not about really having one person, having the teacher kind of in a position of authority. And it's more about what everyone literally brings to the table.
A teacher is up here and the students are more here, and you have something to learn from them. Whereas I think a tutor's and their students are more like, we have something to learn from each other, that we're all working together to tackle this one thing, and it's more of a level playing field.
It was a very pleasant surprise to be put into an environment where the student had input.
It sounds a bit odd, right? You know, classes being the best part of something, but the class has been so interesting. You know, I always feel like I go there and I really want to be there. I'm excited to contribute, you know. In some ways, you know, I'm just as responsible for the class going well as the teacher.
I knew that before coming here, we'd definitely be discussing the text and I'd be with people who wanted to discuss the text. But I didn't really realize how intensely and intelligently we all could have these conversations.
People do often think of this as a literature school, and that's a mistake in a way, not least because nearly half the program is math and science.
In the morning, you might be studying Euclid's Elements, asking questions about what's fundamental to mathematics, what's fundamental to geometry. Then in the afternoon, you might be reading a poem by Wallace Stevens, and you'll make connections between that poem and what you were doing with the mathematics.
It calls on the students to actually follow the reasoning of some important writer, and then to be able to present that reasoning in the classroom.
At first, I absolutely understood, like, oh, we can talk about books and sit around a table and do that. I completely understood that, but I wasn't expecting to go to the science class and sit around a table and do the same thing. It was like no science class I've ever had before. To have the teacher say, actually, I don't know. You have to tell me, you have to figure it out.
I was very surprised to realize that one of my favorite seminars was the math seminars. I'm not the most mathematically minded person, but being able to discuss with people what is a point in Euclidean geometry was one of the most inspiring and awe-striking events of my life.
What they did in the labs here was they were talking about starting from scratch. You know, you don't actually get to make any assumptions. Like, for example, we did a lab on weighing and we weren't allowed to make any assumptions about gravity. We couldn't talk about weight in terms of gravity at all.
We were tasked with forgetting all of our previous knowledge that we had learned up to that point to try to interpret those studies and data from the point of view of the people actually discovering them.
I have never learned math like this before. This is incredible. Like, why don't we think about it like this? We never, like in school, we never built upon that foundation. We never talked about it. And we're just thrown into, like, we just accept the things. And now here we question the things that we accept.
Most of the students last week came away saying, I never thought math could be so fun. I never thought math could be so engaging. So if that happened with most of them, if it really galvanized them to feel that this stuff is extremely interesting, way more interesting than they thought, then I think we succeeded.
These are students who are coming here, we hope, with a very serious interest in reading these books and having these conversations and thinking about these things. But these are also high school students taking a week out of their summer for a holistic experience in Santa Fe, New Mexico.
It's a full immersion program. They spend quite a bit of time in the classroom. That's, of course, the central work we do. Activities are also arranged so that they can enjoy the locale, this beautiful Santa Fe locale.
I feel like here I've done some things that I'm a lot more freer than I would be at home. And I remember when one of our RAs pulled a couple of us out and said let's go dance. And then that's something, and I do dance at home, but it's not, I don't dance as excitedly or as freely as I did on that day. Partly I think because I just felt so comfortable with the people here. It's something about this environment that's just so conducive to that.
I like swimming at Lake Abiquiu. I've never been this far down south, and I live in a huge city where you really don't get to see much nature. It's always gray skies and skyscrapers. And going to Lake Abiquiu and seeing the mountains in the distance and the sky, and it was a perfect clear day. It was just so beautiful. I'd never seen anything like that.
There's just so much that this place has to offer that we think that should be part of the experience. And then wherever we can, we try to connect that to what they're doing in the classroom. In a music tutorial, they might study part of an opera that they'll have a chance to see at the Santa Fe Opera House. They might look in class at a Georgia O'Keeffe painting and discuss it and its elements, and then go see that very painting at the famous O'Keeffe Museum here in town. We just want them to have a rich and wonderful week together, and that's in the classroom and that's outside of the classroom in this beautiful and culturally rich place that we are fortunate to be located in.
What really surprised me about this program was just how much people seem to care about being in the seminar. I mean, even if you disagree with someone, it's obvious that everyone really is interested in trying to get the most out of the text, or trying to really cares about getting their ideas out there.
It's really for those students that want something more out of education, who want something more than maybe a traditional college experience. And the Summer Academy definitely gives you a taste of that.
You hear at every college that the discussion goes outside the classroom, and it's not always true, and so I wasn't sure how true that would be, but it really is. And I guess I was surprised at how much we would just sort of continue our discussions after class and be hanging around in our free time, like having these very philosophical discussions about the texts or just about concepts in general.
I decided to come here so I can continue to have these conversations and be with these types of people, these people who want to discuss the texts and who have a love for learning.
Doesn't matter what you're interested in, doesn't matter what you think you're good at, just go.
I don't think this caters to one specific crowd who like loves reading or caters to a specific crowd who loves science. I think it's for everyone, so I would say go.